Imagine the crisp July air of 1807, the French countryside buzzing with anticipation. You're standing on the manicured grounds of Napoleon Bonaparte's estate, the scent of fresh grass and polished leather in the air. Alexandre Berthier, Napoleon's meticulous chief of staff, has orchestrated a grand hunt to celebrate the Treaty of Tilsit, a diplomatic triumph cementing Napoleon's dominance over Europe. The plan is simple yet ostentatious: release thousands of tame rabbits for the emperor and his entourage to shoot a staged spectacle of conquest over nature. Servants scurry their boots, kicking up dust as they arrange crates filled with fluffy, docile creatures, rabbits bred for slaughter, not rebellion. You hear the clink of champagne glasses, the boasts of generals in gilded uniforms, each one smirking at the thought of an easy victory. Napoleon himself, short but radiating authority, adjusts his bicorn hat, his eyes gleaming with the confidence of a man who's tamed empires. The morning sun glints off muskets, and the crowd's chatter hums like a war drum. This is no mere hunt. It's a performance of power, a chance to show the world that even nature bends to Napoleon's will. But there's a hitch, a faint unease in the air. Those rabbits, packed tight in their crates, seem hungrier than expected. Their twitching noses and restless paws hint at something wilder beneath their fluffy exteriors. You catch a servant's nervous glance, a whisper of too many too fast. Berthier, wiping sweat from his brow, barks orders to release the rabbits, oblivious to the chaos brewing. The stage is set, the curtain rising, on a farce no one saw coming. Like Cher, tell us, could you outrun a rabbit swarm? The crates crack open and chaos erupts. You're caught in the madness as thousands of rabbits, supposedly tame, hand-picked for slaughter, surge forward like a furry tidal wave. No leisurely hop, no timid scamper. These creatures charge with the ferocity of a cavalry, their thumping paws drumming the earth into a dusty haze. The French elite, dressed for a gentleman's hunt, freeze in disbelief as the rabbits swarm, their beady eyes locked on Napoleon's party, like a horde chasing a buffet. You choke on the grit in the air, the countryside's calm shattered by high-pitched squeals and the shouts of panicked soldiers. Napoleon, the conqueror of Austerlitz, stumbles backward, his boots slipping in the dirt as rabbits, yes rabbits, nip at his heels and scramble up his legs. The scene is a grotesque comedy. Generals swat at fluffy invaders with gold-trimmed hats, muskets fire uselessly into the air, and servants trip over each other, abandoning decorum. Sacre bleu, someone yells. But the rabbits don't care for French curses. They're ravenous, bred in cramped cages and starved for this moment, mistaking the emperor for their next meal. You'd laugh if you weren't dodging the furry onslaught yourself. Imagine a viral video titled Napoleon vs. Bunny's Epic Fail. There's a surreal horror in their relentless advance, like a fluffy apocalypse no one could script. The hunt meant to glorify Napoleon is now a humiliating rout. Want to know how it gets worse? Like, Cher, tell us your wildest animal encounter. You're sprinting alongside Napoleon Bonaparte, the Emperor of Europe, as he flees from a relentless swarm of rabbits in 1807. The man who crushed armies at Jena Austerlitz is now a dishevelled mess. His bicorn hat askew, his pristine coat smeared with dust and rabbit fur. The air is thick with chaos, paws thump like war drums, and Napoleon's curses cut through the haze sharp as cannon fire. Imbeciles, he shouts, swatting at rabbits that leap at his knees, their tiny claws snagging his breeches. You dodge a furry missile, your boots sinking into the churned-up mud of the estate. This isn't conquest. It's a slapstick nightmare, a TikTok-worthy disaster, where the greatest military mind of the age is outwitted by fluffy vermin. The rabbits, 1,000 strong, don't scatter like prey. They pursue, climbing his legs, nipping at his heels as if they've declared their own furry revolution. You catch a glimpse of his face, red with rage and humiliation, his imperial dignity shredded faster than his trousers. Soldiers stumble nearby their muskets, useless against this hopping horde. The scene feels like a cosmic prank, as if nature itself is cackling at Napoleon's hubris. Somewhere a poet could spin this into a tale of a rabbit curse, but for now it's just you, the emperor, and a fluffy apocalypse. Like Cher, tell us, could you keep your cool with rabbits on your tail? You're in the thick of it now, surrounded by Napoleon's finest soldiers who are losing a war against rabbits. It's 1807, and the French estate is a battlefield of absurdity. Dust clouds rise as elite troops swing sticks, muskets, and even gold-trimmed sabres at a tidal wave of ravenous furballs. The rabbits, far from the tame pets Alexandre Berthier promised, are a squealing, hopping menace, their tiny teeth snapping at boots and cuffs. You hear the splintering crack of a stick breaking over a rabbit's back, only for 10 more to take its place. Their paws kicking up grit that stings your eyes. A soldier beside you, his face flushed with panic, fires his musket into the air, useless as the rabbits don't flinch. C'est ridicule, he yells, tripping over a crate as the furry onslaught surges forward. The scene is a grotesque comedy like a medieval peasant revolt staged by rodents. You dodge a rabbit leaping at your shins, its hunger-fueled audacity almost admirable. The soldiers' disciplined ranks dissolve into chaos, their shouts drowned by high-pitched squeals. This isn't the glory of Waterloo. It's a humiliating rout, a viral meme waiting to happen in some 19th century tavern. Somewhere in the madness you sense the irony these men conquered nations, but they're no match for a fluffy horde. Like Cher, tell us what's the most absurd fight you've seen. Twilight settles over the French estate in 1807, the air heavy with the musk of trampled grass and lingering panic. You stand among the scattered remnants of Napoleon's failed hunt, the rabbit swarm still skittering in the shadows, their beady eyes glinting like tiny omens. The soldiers, catching their breath, exchange uneasy glances, their faces pale under the fading light. Whispers ripple through the crowd, superstitious mutterings of a rabbit curse, a folkloric jab at hubris that feels too real in this moment. You hear a grizzled sergeant murmur about vengeful spirits, how nature punishes those who mock it with staged triumphs. The wind carries a faint squeal and you shiver, imagining the rabbits as agents of some cosmic jest unleashed to humble the emperor. Napoleon, dusting off his coat, glares at the horizon, but even he can't shake the eerie weight of the moment. The estate, once a stage for glory, now feels like a cursed plot, its shadows stretching long and mocking. You catch a servant crossing himself, his lips moving in silent prayer, as a rabbit darts past unperturbed. This isn't just a hunt gone wrong. It's a tale that'll haunt taverns for years, a warning that even conquerors can't tame the wild. Like Cher, tell us what's the creepiest superstition you've heard. You're watching Alexandre Berthier, Napoleon's trusted chief of staff, unravel in the aftermath of the 1807 rabbit debacle. His face slick with sweat twitches as he barks orders to dazed servants, trying to salvage the wreckage of his grand hunt. The plan was flawless. On paper, release tame, docile rabbits for an easy slaughter to flatter Napoleon's ego post-Tilsit. But Berthier miscalculated those rabbits. Thousands of them were bred in cramped cages, half-starved and feral with hunger. You smell the sour tang of his panic as he paces the muddy estate, his boots squelching, his voice cracking with frantic commands to round them up. The rabbits, far from docile, are now gorging on the estate's crops, their chewing a mocking chorus in the dusk. You overhear a soldier snicker Berthier's genius feeding the enemy. The irony stings a man who orchestrated battles, misjudged a fluffy foe, turning a victory lap into a chaotic rout. It's like a modern CEO botching a product launch but with fur and teeth. Napoleon's glare burns into Berthier, who stammers excuses, his career teetering on this absurd blunder. The scene is a masterclass in hubris, a reminder that even the best laid plans can crumble under nature's whims. Like Cher, tell us what's the worst planning fail you've seen. The French estate in 1807 buzzes with a new kind of chaos as the rabbit swarm scatters, leaving Napoleon's hunt in shambles. You're among the onlookers, noble servants and local gawkers watching the mighty emperor and his soldiers outdone by a furry mob. Stifled giggles ripple through this crowd, a sound sharp as clinking dishware abandoned on banquet tables. A noblewoman hides a smirk behind a lace fan while a footman snorts, nearly dropping a tray of crystal glasses. You catch the glint of mockery in their eyes, the absurdity too rich to ignore Napoleon, conqueror of nations, chased by rabbits. It's a scene ripe for a viral 19th century pamphlet, a roast of imperial pride. Some whisper in awe, marvelling at the rabbit's audacity, while others jeer their laughter, cutting through the dusty air like a blade. You smell the spilled wine and trampled grass, the estate's grandeur, now a backdrop for this farce. A child points giggling as a rabbit hops past with a soldier's ribbon in its mouth. The crowd's mirth is a mix of delight and defiance, a rare chance to see the untouchable humbled. This moment you know will fuel tavern tales for years. Like Cher, tell us what's the funniest fall from grace you've witnessed. The sun dips low over the 1807 French estate, casting long shadows that dance with the fading squeaks of rabbits vanishing into the fields. You stand in the wreckage of Napoleon's hunt, the air thick with the scent of churned earth and bruised pride. Nature's mockery hangs heavy, these rabbits meant to be easy prey, turn the emperor's triumph into a humiliating rout. The wind carries their distant squeals, a taunting chorus that seems to laugh at human arrogance. You see Napoleon, his jaw clenched, scowling at the horizon, as if he could will the chaos away. His soldiers, dusting off their uniforms, mutter curses, their muskets useless against this fluffy foe. It's like nature flipped the script, turning a staged conquest into a lesson in humility. You feel the weight of the moment, a reminder that even empires can't tame the wild. A single rabbit pauses nearby, nibbling a blade of grass, its indifference a final jab at Napoleon's hubris. This isn't just a failed hunt, it's a cosmic prank etched in the dirt and whispers of the estate. If history had hashtags, this would be nature wins. Like Cher, tell us when has nature humbled you. Night falls over the French estate in 1807, the air sharp with the tang of smoke and shame. You're in the flickering glow of Napoleon's private study, where the emperor, his face a mask of fury, orders the rabbit fiasco buried. Hushed whispers slither through the corridors as aides scurry their boots, scuffing polished floors, clutching letters meant for the fire. You smell the acrid burn of parchment curling in the hearth each page, a desperate attempt to erase the day's humiliation. Napoleon paces his shadow looming large, barking at Berthier to silence the witnesses, soldiers' servants, anyone who saw the furry rout. No word of this leaves the estate. He growls, but you know gossip spreads faster than rabbits. A servant hesitates, his eyes darting, clutching a half-burned note that could fuel tavern tales. The scene is grimly absurd, like a modern PR team scrambling to kill a viral scandal. You feel the weight of Napoleon's dented pride, his empire's glory tarnished by creatures no bigger than a loaf of bread. This isn't just a hunt gone wrong, it's a secret the emperor can't bury no matter how many letters he burns. Like Cher, tell us what's the wildest cover-up you've heard of? You're back on the ravaged estate in 1807, the ground littered with torn banners and trampled crops as the rabbits. Those fluffy rebels claim their victory. Imagine them as revolutionaries, their scampering feet drumming a war cry against Napoleon's hubris. You hear their high-pitched squeals, a mocking anthem echoing across the fields as they dart through the dusk untamed and triumphant. The soldiers, their uniforms streaked with mud, stand defeated, their muskets as useless as props in this furry uprising. You can't help but grin at the absurdity these rabbits bred for slaughter staged a coup that'll outlive Napoleon's battles. It's like a Reddit thread gone wild. Rabbit revolt trending in every tavern. A lone bunny pauses, its ears twitching as if saluting its comrades before vanishing into the underbrush. The air hums with the thrill of their defiance, a reminder that even the mightiest can fall to the smallest. You almost expect a bard to sing of this spinning the rabbits into folk heroes of a bizarre revolution. This isn't just a hunt, it's history's cheekiest rebellion. Like Cher, tell us what's the most unlikely underdog victory you know. Dawn breaks over the French estate in 1807, revealing a scene of utter disarray after the rabbit rampage. You wade through the wreckage, overturned crates, scattered muskets, and trampled fields that look like a battlefield, not a hunting ground. The air is thick with lingering dust kicked up by thousands of frantic paws, and your boots squelch in the mud churned by fleeing soldiers. Torn banners, once proud symbols of Napoleonic glory, lie shredded among gnawed vegetables the rabbits feast, leaving the estate's gardens in ruin. You hear the distant clatter of servants scrambling to clean up their curses, mingling with the faint squeaks of straggling rabbits. The grandeur of yesterday's hunt is gone, replaced by a chaotic tableau that screams of nature's upper hand. It's like a festival trashed by uninvited guests, a Snapchat story of epic failure. A soldier kicks a broken crate, muttering about cursed beasts, while the estate's manicured lawns bear scars no gardener can erase. This isn't just a failed event. It's a humbling reminder that even empires can't script nature's will. Like, share, tell us what's the messiest aftermath you've seen. You're in the tense silence of Napoleon's private quarters, the 1807 rabbit debacle still fresh. The Emperor stands rigid, his fists clench so tight his knuckles gleam white, his face a storm of wounded pride. The scent of wax and old books fills the air as he forces a smile for his aides. But you see the flicker of rage in his eyes. Napoleon, the man who tamed Europe, undone by rabbits. His bicorn hat, once a symbol of conquest, sits crooked as if mocking him. You hear the scratch of a quill as an aide drafts orders to bury the story, but the weight of humiliation hangs heavy. It's like a CEO watching a viral PR disaster trend, powerless to stop it. Napoleon snaps at a servant, his voice sharp as a blade, demanding loyalty from a court that's already whispering. The rabbits didn't just ruin a hunt, they chipped away at his myth of invincibility. You feel the sting of his bruised ego, a conqueror forced to face his limits in a single absurd day. This is history's cruelest roast, and Napoleon's the punchline. Like, share, tell us what's the worst hit to your pride you've taken. The French estate in 1807 lies quiet under a pale morning sky, but the silence is eerie, broken only by the soft crunch of rabbits devouring what's left of the gardens. You walk through the ravaged fields where rows of cabbages and carrots are now a buffet for the furry victors of Napoleon's failed hunt. The air carries the sharp green scent of torn leaves, and you see hundreds of rabbits, their whiskers twitching, gorging on the crops with relentless glee. It's as if they've claimed the estate as their own, a fluffy army feasting on the spoils of their uprising. You step carefully, avoiding their darting forms, each one a tiny rebel mocking the Empire's grandeur. The scene feels like a twisted festival, a furry Coachella where the headliners are unstoppable rodents. A gardener, his face etched with despair, mutters about months of work lost his rake, useless against this invasion. The eerie quiet, punctuated by chewing, feels like nature's final jab at Napoleon's hubris. No cannons, no soldiers, just rabbits triumphant in their chaos. This is history's strangest victory lap. Like, share, tell us what's the wildest feast you've seen. You're crammed into a smoky tavern, the air thick with the tang of ale and sweat, as a grizzled soldier recounts the 1807 rabbit debacle to a roaring crowd. His voice, rough from battle and beer, paints the scene. Napoleon, the Emperor of Europe, fleeing a swarm of ravenous rabbits. You hear the clink of ale mugs as listeners lean in, their laughter booming like cannon fire when he mimics Napoleon swatting at furry attackers. Like a fox in a henhouse, but backwards he bellows, slamming his mug down ale, sloshing over the scarred table. You can almost see the estate's chaos in his animated gestures, the dust, the squeals, the soldiers tripping over their own muskets. The crowd howls, some wiping tears, others shouting for more. It's a story that's already legend, a viral tale for the 19th century, spreading faster than the rabbits themselves. You feel the warmth of the fire, the buzz of shared disbelief as the soldier spins the hunt into a fable of hubris. This isn't just gossip, it's the kind of tale that'll outlive empires. Like, share, tell us what's the best story you've heard in a bar. You're in a dimly lit French tavern weeks after the 1807 rabbit fiasco, where flickering candles cast long shadows on rough-hewn walls. The air smells of stale ale and wax, thick with whispered tales that have already turned Napoleon's humiliation into legend. A bard strums a lute, his voice low as he spins the story, the emperor conqueror of nations chased by a furry horde. You hear gasps and chuckles from the crowd, their eyes wide as they lean closer, hanging on every word of rabbits swarming like a biblical plague. They say the beasts were cursed. A woman mutters her fingers, tracing a cross as if the rabbits were spirits sent to humble pride. The tale grows wilder with each telling, rabbits as big as hounds. Napoleon fleeing on horseback. It's like a viral thread spinning out of control, each retelling adding a new twist. You feel the story's weight its power to outlast battles carried on whispers through smoky rooms. This isn't just gossip, it's folklore forging itself a mocking gift to history's underdogs. Like, share, tell us what's the wildest legend you've heard grow. You stand before a grand portrait of Napoleon, his gaze stern, painted as if no rabbit ever dared defy him. It's 1807 and the rabbit rout on his estate lingers like a stain on his legacy. The air in the gallery feels heavy-scented with polish and dust, as if history itself is judging the emperor's overreach. His campaigns Marengo Austerlitz fill books with triumphs, but this absurd defeat, a skirmish with furballs, exposes the fragility of his myth. You imagine silent battlefields, their vastness dwarfed by the memory of a chaotic hunt when nature mocked his ambition. The rabbit's unwitting rebels remind you that even conquerors can't control everything. It's like a modern tycoon felled by a bad tweet, pride crumbling in an instant. You hear the faint echo of those squeals, a taunt woven into Napoleon's story of conquest. This moment, trivial yet profound, ties his hubris to history's long thread of human folly. No empire, no matter how vast, escapes nature's smirk. Like Cher tell us when his hubris backfired on you. Twilight bathes the French estate in 1807, the sky a mocking purple as the rabbit's history's unlikeliest victors hop triumphantly across the ravaged fields. You watch their playful bounds, each leap a taunt to Napoleon's shattered pride, their fluffy tails bobbing like tiny flags of rebellion. The air carries the faint rustle of grass, the scent of torn earth as these furry insurgents revel in their chaos. It's as if they've claimed the estate, turning Napoleon's stage of glory into their victory lap. You hear a distant squeak, almost a chuckle, echoing in the dusk, and you can't help but grin at the absurdity. This is no battle of cannons. It's a rout by rodents, a meme-worthy upset that'd trend as #bunny rebellion today. A lone rabbit pauses nibbling a stolen carrot, its defiance louder than any war cry. The scene feels like nature's satire, a reminder that even emperors bow to the smallest foes. You almost expect the rabbits to parade their hops, a cheeky salute to their improbable win. Like, Cher tell us what's the most unexpected victory you've seen. You're in the tense hush of Napoleon's court days after the 1807 rabbit debacle, where the emperor's silence speaks louder than any decree. The air smells of ink and candle wax, the scratch of a quill slicing through the quiet as aides draft edicts to bury the story. Napoleon sits, his face carved from stone, refusing to acknowledge the furry rout that humiliated him. You see his jaw tighten, his eyes darting to avoid the smirks of courtiers who know the truth. The room feels like a pressure cooker, every whisper a risk, as if mentioning rabbits could spark his wrath. It's like a modern CEO dodging a scandal, pretending the internet doesn't exist. A servant fumbles a tray, the clatter echoing like the rabbit's mocking squeals. Napoleon's silence is his shield, but it can't erase the tale spreading beyond these walls. This isn't just a hunt gone wrong, it's a crack in his myth, a wound he won't name. You feel the weight of his pride heavy as the empire he rules. Like Cher tell us what's the hardest truth you've had to swallow. You're scrolling through an imagined 1807 social media feed, the buzz of Napoleon's rabbit debacle lighting up the virtual world. The air hums with the electric thrill of gossip, like notifications pinging endlessly on a modern app. Tavern scribes and court gossips churn out memes, a cartoon of Napoleon fleeing a fluffy horde captioned, "Bunnygate Emperor versus Rabbits." You smell the ink of hurried pamphlets, the 19th century equivalent of viral tweets spreading the tale faster than wildfire. The estate's chaos rabbits, swarming soldiers flailing, feels like a PR disaster, a corporate flop gone global. You hear the echo of laughter in every retold story, each share amplifying Napoleon's humiliation. It's as if X were alive in 1807, with threads dissecting Berthier's blunder and trending hashtags like #fluffy rebellion. A noble's whispered jest in a Parisian salon carries the same sting as a savage comment section. This isn't just a hunt gone wrong, it's a lesson in how fast glory can crumble in the public eye. You feel the pulse of history's first viral scandal unstoppable as those rabbits. Like Cher tell us what's the wildest social media storm you've seen. You stand at the edge of the French estate in 1807, the dusk settling like a soft shroud over the fading tracks of rabbits. The air is cool, scented with earth, and the faint musk of chaos as the last echoes of the furry rout dissolve into silence. Napoleon's hunt meant to crown his glory lies in tatters, a testament to humanity's futile grasp at control. You see the churned fields, the scattered crates, and feel the weight of absurdity, a conqueror undone by creatures smaller than his ambition. It's like life itself throwing curveballs. No empire can predict a flat tire on the road to greatness. The rabbits long gone leave a lesson etched in the dirt. Nature laughs last, no matter how grand your plans. You hear a distant squeak, a final jab from the wild, and it hits you. History isn't just battles and crowns. It's these bizarre, humbling moments. This isn't just a story. It's a mirror to our own overreaching dreams. The estate lies quiet now, but its absurdity will echo forever. Like, Cher, tell us what's the most absurd twist life's thrown at you. You're in Zanzibar, August 27, 1896. The air heavy with humid salt and the tension of defiance. Sultan Khalid bin Bargash stands in his palace, his robes stiff with resolve, refusing to bow to British demands to cede power after his uncle's death. You hear his voice, sharp and unyielding, shouting orders to his guards as the distant rumble of British warships grows louder in the harbour. The palace buzzes with nervous energy, the scent of incense mingling with sweat, as Khalid's men clutch antique rifles, their eyes darting to the horizon. This is no grand empire. It's a fleeting stand against colonial might, a sultan betting on pride over pragmatism. You feel the heat pressing against your skin, the air thick with the audacity of a man who'd rather face cannons than kneel. It's like a start-up CEO defying a corporate giant, knowing the odds are brutal. The crowd outside murmurs torn between loyalty and fear as the clock ticks toward 9:02 a.m. Khalid's defiance is a spark, but the British are ready to douse it with fire. This isn't just a power struggle. It's a doomed 38-minute rebellion. Like, Cher, tell us what's the boldest stand you've taken. At 9:02 a.m, the Zanzibar coast erupts as British warships unleash their fury on Sultan Khalid's palace. You're caught in the chaos, the air splitting with the deafening boom of cannons, each blast shaking the ground beneath your feet. Glass shatters in the palace windows, the shards glittering like deadly confetti, while the acrid stench of gunpowder chokes your throat. You see the red glow of shells arcing through the sky, slamming into the palace with ruthless precision, as if the British are speed-running imperial dominance. The Sultan's outdated cannons fire back weakly, their pops drowned by the roar of naval might. It's like a modern drone strike condensed into 38 minutes, all pomp and destruction. You hear screams from the palace guards, their defiance crumbling as fast as the walls. The harbour's waves churn, reflecting the fire and smoke, a scene both thrilling and grotesque. This isn't just a war, it's a colonial flex, a brutal reminder of who holds the real power. You feel the pulse of history's shortest conflict already racing to its end. Like, Cher, tell us what's the fastest chaos you've witnessed. It's 9:03 a.m. on August 27, 1896, and you're standing in Zanzibar's Palace Square, the air thick with gunpowder and dread. The British bombardment hammers Sultan Khalid's palace, and the clock tower, proud symbol of time and order, takes the first brutal hit. You hear the ticking stop, a sudden silence drowned by the crack of splintering stone as the tower crumbles, masonry dust billowing like a ghostly shroud. The ground trembles under your feet and you shield your eyes from the grit, the scene a chaotic blur of smoke and falling debris. It's as if time itself surrenders, marking the war's absurd brevity. The crowd gasps, their shouts swallowed by the roar of cannons, while the tower's collapse signals the Sultan's fleeting defiance is doomed. This isn't just a building falling, it's a metaphor for a 38-minute war over before the dust settles. You smell the charred earth, feel the weight of colonial might crushing hope. It's like watching a TikTok clip end before it even trends. This moment, sharp and brutal, sets the stage for Zanzibar's swift defeat. Like, Cher, tell us what's the quickest collapse you've seen. You're on Zanzibar's harbour shore at 9:05 a.m. 1896. As the Sultan's only warship, the HHS Glasgow, faces the British naval onslaught. The air vibrates with the creak of splintering wood and the deep bellow of cannons as a single shot from the Glasgow, more defiant than threat, sinks into the waves. You watch the ship lurch, struck by British shells, its hull groaning like a dying beast before it tilts and slips beneath the churning sea. The water bubbles and hisses, swallowing the vessel in minutes, leaving only ripples and floating debris. You smell the salt and smoke the scene, a grim snapshot of colonial power crushing outdated dreams. It's like a startup's prototype failing spectacularly on launch day. The palace burns in the distance, and you hear the faint cries of Khalid's men, their hopes sinking as fast as their ship. The Glasgow now a reef to be marks the war's relentless pace, 38 minutes to erase a sultan's stand. This isn't just a ship lost, it's a fleeting rebellion drowned. Like Cher, tell us what's the fastest defeat you've witnessed. You're choking on the thick smoke that blankets Zanzibar's Palace Square at 9:10 a.m. August 27th, 1896, as British shells reduce Sultan Khalid's stronghold to a blazing ruin. The crackling fire roars like a beast devouring wooden beams and ornate tapestries, while the air stings your lungs with the acrid bite of burning paint and stone dust. You see flames licking the palace walls, their orange glow painting a scene of relentless destruction, as if the British are torching time itself in this 38-minute war. Screams pierce the chaos guards, and servants fleeing as roofs collapse, their silhouettes darting through the inferno. It's like watching a blockbuster disaster scene, but it's real, and it's over before the credits roll. You feel the heat searing your skin, the ground littered with shattered tiles and smouldering debris. The palace, once a symbol of defiance, is now a funeral pyre for Khalid's brief rebellion. This isn't just a building burning, it's a colonial flex reducing a sultan's pride to ash in minutes. You hear the distant boom of cannons, a reminder that this war waits for no one. Like Cher, tell us what's the most intense destruction you've seen. It's 9:40 a.m, August 27, 1896, and you're racing through Zanzibar's crumbling palace, the air heavy with smoke and defeat. Sultan Khalid bin Bargash. His defiance shattered flees down a shadowed corridor, his hurried footsteps echoing on cracked marble. You hear the rustle of his robes, the frantic shouts of his guards, as they wave a white flag, its fabric limp in the humid air. The British cannons fall silent, their work done in a mere 38 minutes, leaving the palace a smouldering wreck. You catch a glimpse of Khalid, his face etched with resignation, slipping toward a back exit to seek exile. It's like a CEO bailing on a failed startup, the dream crushed before lunch. The scent of charred wood lingers, and you feel the weight of a rebellion snuffed out faster than a candle. The crowd outside falls quiet, their loyalty to Khalid dissolving, as British ships loom in the harbour. This isn't just a surrender, it's the end of a fleeting stand, a war too short to mourn. You see the white flag flutter a final note in history's briefest conflict. Like Cher, tell us what's the quickest retreat you've witnessed. You're standing on the deck of a British warship in Zanzibar's harbour minutes after the 38-minute war of August 27, 1896. The air smells of gunpowder and polished brass, the officers' uniforms crisp as they dictate smug reports to be sent to London. You hear the scratch of quills, their words dripping with imperial arrogance. Sultan subdued, order restored. The palace lies in ruins, its smoke curling like a defeated sigh, yet these men smirk as if they've conquered an empire, not a defiant man in under an hour. It's like a corporate exec bragging about a hostile takeover, all pomp and no pause. You see a captain adjust his cap, his posture screaming superiority, as if Zanzibar was just a chess piece in Britain's global game. The harbour's waves lap quietly indifferent to the human cost ashore. This isn't just a victory. It's a masterclass in colonial hubris where a sultan's stand was crushed before breakfast. You feel the weight of their disdain, a reminder that empires write history with cannon fire and sneers. Like Cher, tell us what's the most blatant display of arrogance you've seen. You walk through the silent ruins of Zanzibar's palace hours after the 38-minute war of 1896, the air heavy with the scent of ash and sea salt. The shattered stones crunch underfoot, and the distant waves whisper like mourners carrying the echoes of a conflict too brief to grasp. You see the charred remains of the palace, a sultan's defiance reduced to rubble faster than a coffee break. The human cost lingers, guards, wounded families displaced, all for a colonial power play that barely paused the British morning tea. It's like a viral stunt gone wrong, spectacular and senseless. You feel the absurdity of it all. A war so fleeting it's almost a joke, yet its scars are real. The harbour glints under the sun, indifferent to the lives upended in minutes. This isn't just history's shortest war, it's a mirror to humanity's knack for destruction over diplomacy. You hear a faint gull's cry, a haunting note in the stillness, reminding you that even the briefest battles leave lasting ghosts. Like, share, tell us what's the most fleeting but impactful moment you've witnessed. You're standing in the sun-scorched dust of Olympia 720 BCE, where the air hums with the roar of crowds and the sharp scent of olive oil. The Olympic Games have just embraced a bold new rule: athletes must compete naked, their bodies gleaming with oil to honour Zeus and flaunt physical perfection. You see runners stretching their skin, slick and shining under the Greek sun, each muscle a testament to divine artistry. The crowd's cheers crash like waves, their excitement tinged with awe at this raw display of human grit. It's like a CrossFit expo with a sacred twist, all ego and no togas. You feel the heat radiating from the earth, the gritty dust clinging to your sandals as athletes stride confidently, unbothered by their exposure. This isn't just sport. It's a ritual, a sweaty offering to the gods where vanity and devotion collide. The air crackles with anticipation, every eye on the oiled bodies ready to race. You hear a priest chant low and rhythmic, sealing the moment's sanctity. Like, share, tell us what's the boldest public display you've seen. You're in the sacred precinct of Olympia 720 BCE, where the air is thick with temple smoke and the eerie chants of priests invoking Zeus. The naked athletes, their bodies slick with olive oil, move with reverence, as if the gods' eyes are watching from the clouds. You feel the weight of divine scrutiny, the crowd's cheers muted by the hum of ritual as incense curls upward, its sharp scent mingling with sweat. Each runner, wrestler and jumper offers their flesh to the heavens, their nudity a bold prayer for glory. It's like a spiritual Instagram flex, every muscle a post for Zeus's approval. You hear the low drone of prayers, the crackle of sacrificial fires, and sense an uncanny presence as if the gods are judging each step. The athlete's confidence borders on defiance, their bare skin a canvas for both vanity and faith. This isn't just competition, it's a dance with the divine where mortals bear all for a fleeting chance at immortality. You feel the tensions sacred and strange in every oiled stride. Like, share, tell us what's the most intense ritual you've witnessed. You're in the heart of Olympia 720 BCE, where the sun beats down on a dust-choked arena, the air thick with the scent of sweat and olive oil. Naked wrestlers, their bodies glistening like polished bronze, grapple in the dirt, their slick skin sliding against each other as muscles strain and sand grinds into their flesh. You hear the grunts of effort, the slap of bodies colliding, and the crowd's roar swelling like a storm. Each move is a brutal dance, a mix of raw power and sacred showmanship, as if Zeus himself is scoring their struggle. It's like a no-holds-barred MMA fight, but with divine stakes and zero gear. You feel the grit underfoot, the heat radiating from the earth as one wrestler pins another, dust clouding the air like a gritty halo. The crowd's cheers spike, some mocking a slip, others awed by sheer strength. This isn't just sport, it's a visceral clash of human will bared for gods and mortals alike. You sense the tension, every grapple a prayer for glory. Like, share, tell us what's the most intense showdown you've seen. You're pressed into the sweaty throng at Olympia 720 BCE, where the air pulses with the thundering cheers of thousands watching naked athletes compete. The scent of dust and perspiration hangs heavy as the crowd's roars rise and fall like waves, a mix of awe at the athletes' oiled, sculpted forms and mockery for those who falter. You hear a sharp jeer as a runner stumbles, the crowd's laughter cutting through the humid air while others shout praise for a flawless leap. It's like a modern stadium vibe, but rawer, with no barriers between spectators and the sacred spectacle. You feel the heat of bodies packed tight the ground, vibrating under the weight of their excitement. A heckler's taunt. Cover up, you know. Apollo sparks a ripple of chuckles, yet the athletes move unfazed, their nudity a bold badge of honour. This isn't just a game, it's a theatre of human triumph and folly played out under Zeus's gaze. You catch a whiff of olive oil, reminder of the ritual's strange sanctity. Like Cher, tell us what's the loudest crowd you've been part of. You're in the sacred precinct of Olympia 720 BCE, where the air hums with the forbidden thrill of the Olympic Games. Women are barred from watching under penalty of death, yet the priestesses of Demeter stand defiant, their robes rustling softly as they observe from a shadowed grove. You catch their forbidden glances, eyes gleaming with quiet rebellion, as they witness the naked athletes sprint and wrestle under the blazing sun. The scent of incense and olive oil lingers, mingling with the dusty heat, while their presence feels like a secret held against the gods. It's like sneaking into a VIP event knowing the stakes are deadly. You hear the distant cheers of the male crowd, oblivious to these women's silent vigil, their robes whispering against sacred ground. The priestesses, guardians of a rival deity, embody a subtle defiance, their gaze a claim to power in a male-dominated rite. This isn't just spectating, it's a quiet revolt etched in stolen glances and hushed breaths. You feel the tension sacred and subversive in their unspoken challenge. Like Cher, tell us what's the boldest rule you've bent. You stand before the weathered statues of Olympia centuries after 720 BCE, where the fading cheers of the ancient games still echo in stone. The air carries the faint scent of dust and time as these marble figures naked, oiled eternal, capture the strange glory of athletes who bared all for Zeus. You see their chiselled forms frozen in mid-stride or grapple, a testament to a culture where nudity was both worship and defiance. The legacy of those games, raw and unashamed, shaped a world that revered the body as divine art, yet it feels alien now, like a TikTok trend lost to history. You hear the ghostly hum of ancient crowds, their roars preserved in the statue's silent grace. This wasn't just sport, it was a ritual that burned itself into Greece's soul, blending vanity, faith and grit. The statues stand unmoved, their eyes blind to the modern world, yet their story lingers, a bizarre, bold chapter of human ambition. You feel the weight of their enduring gaze, a reminder of glory won without a stitch. Like Cher, tell us what's the strangest tradition you've encountered. Hey you there, settling in for a quiet night. Picture this, a soft hum from a fan in the corner, the world outside fading to a whisper. Tonight we're diving into a story that's tender, raw and real, the long often hidden journey of people born with Down syndrome, from ancient firesides where their presence sparked wonder to modern streets where their voices rise. This tale is about how humanity has stumbled, learned and grown. It's not just history, it's a mirror showing us who we are and who we could be. So grab a blanket, dim the lights, and let's wander through time together. Oh, and if you're vibing with this, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment. Where are you tuning in from and what's the clock saying? I love knowing who's out there sharing this moment. Long before science named it, before anyone scribbled Trisomy 21 in a textbook, there were just people, mothers, fathers, neighbours, watching a child who moved a little slower, smiled a little wider. Imagine a dusty village, maybe 500 years ago, where the air smells of wood smoke and damp earth. A child is born, their face softer eyes, almond-shaped, their giggle a quiet melody. No one knows why they're different, but they're here cradled in the arms of a family who doesn't need a diagnosis to love them. We don't have their stories written in clay or stone, but we have something better, their graves. In France, archaeologists found a child from the 5th century, laid to rest with care, their small bones tucked gently among others in a sacred plot. Not cast out, not shunned, but honoured as if to say, you were one of us. That burial whispers across centuries acceptance wasn't always a stranger. In a world without medical charts, some saw these children as quieter souls, maybe closer to the spirits. You can imagine a mother, her hands rough from grinding grain, carrying her child a little longer, speaking to them in softer tones. Maybe their differences weren't a burden, but a gift, a reminder of life's fragile beauty. In other places, though, the story shifted. Some cultures wove myths around difference, divine blessings, or cosmic warnings. A child with Down syndrome might be revered as touched by the gods or feared as a sign of trouble. It all depended on the stories people told themselves, the flicker of firelight shaping their truths. These ancient traces, burials in Rome, the Andes, even older sites, tell us something profound. People with Down syndrome have always been here, woven into the human tapestry. They weren't a problem to fix or a flaw to erase. They were part of the family, their lives a thread in the endless weave of existence. As you lie there, letting the world slip away, think of those quiet graves, each one saying, "I was here. I mattered." And as we drift deeper into history, we'll see how that truth sometimes faded only to shine again, stubborn and bright. Sleep well, and let's keep going. Now let's step into the bustle of the classical world. Think Athens with its marble statues, Rome's crowded forums, or Egypt's sun-baked temples. The air's thick with incense, the chatter of philosophers, and the clink of coins. Here difference wasn't just noticed. It was a story, a symbol, a puzzle. For people with Down syndrome born into this swirl of myth and meaning, life wasn't defined by medicine, but by the tales their communities spun. As you settle deeper into your pillow, imagine being there, the world alive with mystery, where every face carried a hint of the divine or the dangerous. In these societies, a child with softer features, slower speech, or a gentler way might spark wonder or unease. No one knew about chromosomes, so they reached for stories instead. In Greece, they might say such a child was touched by a god, maybe Apollo, gifting them a quieter wisdom. In Egypt, myths spoke of children born under strange stars, their lives tied to fate. You can picture a marketplace, the scent of roasted figs and dust in the air, where a child with Down syndrome toddles through their laughter, drawing smiles or wary glances. Some saw them as omens, others as blessings, but rarely just as kids. They were woven into the culture's dreams and fears, their presence a spark for tales of gods or curses. But it wasn't all lofty metaphor. In some villages, families kept these children close to their homes, filled with the clatter of pots and the warmth of shared meals. A father might carve a wooden toy, noticing his child's slower hands but brighter eyes. In others, though, fear won out children hidden away or left to the mercy of superstition. Hindu texts from ancient India spoke of karmic cycles, suggesting every soul had a purpose, but purpose didn't always mean acceptance. The truth is, reactions varied, wildly shaped by the village elder's mood or the priest's latest vision. You can almost hear the whispers. Is this child a gift or a warning? What strikes you as you drift towards sleep is how these people were never invisible. They were part of the human dance, their lives shaping stories, even if those stories weren't always kind. No rights, no protections, just the raw pulse of humanity, sometimes cruel, sometimes tender. As we move forward, that pulse will shift, cloaked in dogma then science, but never quite losing its beat. For now, rest easy, knowing these ancient souls still speak to us, their echoes soft but stubborn. Picture yourself in a medieval village, the air sharp with frost, the scent of wood smoke curling from thatched roofs. It's the kind of cold that seeps into your bones, where the church bell's clang is the loudest thing for miles. In this world, between the 5th and 15th centuries, life is ruled by faith, fear, and the heavy hand of the church. For a child born with Down syndrome, with their gentle eyes and slower steps, this is a time of shadows where difference often carries a weight heavier than stone. As you sink into your bed, let the crackle of a distant fire pull you into their story, one of silence but also stubborn survival. The medieval world didn't have words like genetics or disability. Instead, it had whispers, superstitions that filled the gaps where understanding faltered. A child who spoke late, whose face bore softer, distinct features, might be seen as a sign of divine displeasure. You can imagine the village square muddy and bustling where news of such a birth spreads like wildfire. Was it the mother's sin? They'd murmur their breath, fogging in the chilly air. A curse, a test. The church, towering over every thought, often framed these children as evidence of spiritual failing, maybe the devil's mark, maybe God's judgment. Without science to anchor them, people leaned on fear, and fear, as it does, could turn cruel. Many of these children were hidden away, tucked into the dim corners of homes, their laughter muffled behind thick walls. You might picture a mother, her hands chapped from spinning wool, keeping her child indoors away from prying eyes. Some were sent to monasteries where monks or nuns were tasked with caring for the afflicted. Sometimes this meant a quiet life-bread shelter, a place to exist, but too often it meant isolation, far from the warmth of family, their days blending into a grey routine of prayer and silence. The world outside moved on its records, barely noting these lives as if they were ghosts slipping through history's cracks. Yet even in this age of dogma, there's a flicker of something human. Not every heart was hardened. Some families, some monks saw beyond the fear, recognizing a soul as sacred as any other. As you drift towards sleep, think of those unwritten stories, a child's giggle echoing in a cloister, a quiet act of care that no chronicle caught. These lives, though shrouded, endured their presence, a silent challenge to a world not yet ready to see them. The story's not over, it's just beginning to stir. Let's linger in that medieval world a bit longer, where the glow of a hearth casts long shadows, and the night feels endless. Amid the harshness of superstition and rigid beliefs, there are glimmers of kindness like stars breaking through a clouded sky. For people with Down syndrome, often pushed to the edges of society, these moments of compassion were rare but real proof that love could bloom, even in the hardest soil. As you settle deeper, the hum of your fan, blending with the night, lets uncover these quiet acts that history almost forgot. Imagine a small village, the kind where everyone knows the creak of your door. A child with Down syndrome is born their slower movements and bright eyes setting them apart. Instead of whispers or exile, some families chose love over fear. A father, his hands rough from ploughing fields, might sit by the fire teaching his child to stack kindling patient with their fumbled tries. A mother might weave a simple tunic, her stitches tight with care, knowing her child's smile lights up the room more than any candle. These weren't scholars or saints, just parents who saw their child not a symbol and held them close. In monasteries where many such children were sent compassion, sometimes broke through the cold stone walls. Picture a nun, her robes smelling of herbs and dust, guiding a child's hand to knead dough, her voice soft as she hums a hymn. Some monks called these children innocents, believing their gentle nature brought them closer to God. In these sacred spaces they might help tend gardens or carry water, their days woven into the rhythm of prayer and work. Not every monastery was kind, but these exceptions where a child was seen not hidden mattered. They were lifelines in a sea of silence. Art too holds clues to this tenderness. In a few medieval paintings, figures with features resembling Down syndrome appear not as outcasts, but as shepherds, angels, or quiet saints. Were these portraits of real people loved by an artist's eye? We can't know, but they feel like whispers of defiance saying, "You belong." As you drift off, hold on to this even in an age that could be cruel. There were those who chose care, who saw beauty where others saw difference. Their quiet rebellion sowed seeds for a future still unfolding. Now let's step out of the medieval fog and into the sharper light of the 17th and 18th centuries, where Europe's buzzing with new ideas telescopes, scanning the stars, quills, scratching theories on parchment. The air smells of ink and ambition, but for people with Down syndrome, this shift from faith to reason brings a new kind of gaze, the clinical stare of science. As you nestle into your blankets, the hum of your fan a steady lull. Imagine a world waking up to observation where difference isn't just a mystery, but something to be named, studied, and too often judged. Before this era, folks with Down syndrome lived in the margins, their lives shaped by whispers of sin or spirit. But now science steps in, trading old myths for new labels. Picture a physician's study cluttered with books and glass vials where candlelight flickers over notes. In 1866, a British doctor, John Langdon Down, sits here scribbling a paper that'll change history. Working at the Royal Earlswood Asylum in Surrey, he notices a group of patients with shared traits, almond-shaped eyes, round faces, a gentle demeanour. He doesn't know about chromosomes, nobody does yet, but he sees a pattern and calls it Mongolism, a term rooted in the racial biases of his time, comparing their features to outdated ethnic stereotypes. It's a painful misstep by today's standards, but back then it's a spark of recognition. Down's work isn't cruel in intent. Unlike many of his peers, he pushes for kindness, better care, structure, dignity for those he studies. You can almost hear his pen scratching his voice soft as he describes patients who laugh easily, who move with a quiet grace. Yet his paper does something bigger than he could have guessed. It makes people with Down syndrome visible in a new way. No longer just idiots or afflicted, they're a category, a condition to be studied. This is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it paves the way for research for understanding what we now call trisomy 21. On the other, it reduces people to traits of their humanity sometimes lost in the cold language of diagnosis. As you drift towards sleep, think of those patients in Earlswood, their lives now under a microscope. They're no longer invisible, but they're not fully seen either. Not as individuals with dreams or quirks, like how one might love the taste of warm bread or the sound of rain. This scientific dawn is a turning point, but it's just the start of a long road, one that'll twist through darker places before finding light. Rest now, and we'll keep walking this path together. Let's fast forward to the 19th century, where the world's churning with steam engines, crowded cities, and the hum of progress. The air's thick with coal smoke and the clatter of industry, but for people with Down syndrome, this modern age builds new walls, ones made of brick and bureaucracy. Institutions rise like fortresses, promising care but often delivering confinement. As you sink deeper into your pillow, the night wrapping around you, picture these sprawling buildings, their corridors echoing with footsteps, and let's explore a chapter that's both sobering and pivotal. Imagine a small town where a family cradles a child with Down syndrome, their laughter bright but their steps slow. Doctors with their starched collars and serious nods tell parents, your child's better off in a facility-specialised care safety structure. It sounds kind, even progressive, and many believe it. These institutions, big grey places with names like asylum or home, pop up across Europe and America, funded by governments eager to organise society's edges. But step inside and the truth isn't so tidy. The halls smell of damp and disinfectant rooms packed with rows of iron beds. Overcrowded, underfunded, they're less about care and more about control. For a child with Down syndrome, life here is rigid. You wake to a bell, wear a scratchy uniform, follow a schedule carved in stone. Some are lumped with others who have wildly different needs, mental illness, physical disabilities, leaving little room for personal growth. You might picture a young girl, her eyes bright, trying to hum a tune, but there's no one to teach her, no space to play. The staff, often untrained, do what they can, but kindness is stretched thin. Families told to trust the system visit less and less, their hearts heavy with guilt. Out of sight, out of mind, and society sighs with relief, thinking the problem is solved. But there are glimmers of light. In some places, a caregiver, a rare soul with a warm laugh, might sneak an extra biscuit to a child, or teach them to fold linens, seeing their smile as reward enough. Friendships form quiet bonds between residents who share giggles or hold hands in the yard. These moments, small as they seem, are lifelines. As you drift off, hold this image, a world that thought it could lock away difference yet couldn't snuff out its spark. This era's a hard one, but it's setting the stage for voices that'll soon rise loud and unbroken. Let's step into the grim shadow of the early 20th century, where the world's buzzing with factories, telegraphs, and a dangerous new idea dressed up as progress. The air's thick with the soot of industry and the arrogance of science gone astray. For people with Down syndrome, this era brings a chilling turn as the eugenics movement sweeps through nations, cloaking cruelty in the name of perfection. As you settle into your bed, the hum of your fan a soft anchor. Imagine a time when humanity's worst instincts hid behind clipboards and cold logic. This is a heavy tale, but it's one we need to hear. Picture a lecture hall packed with men in stiff suits nodding as a professor preaches about improving the human race. Eugenics, born from a warped desire to control nature, labels people with Down syndrome as unfit, their gentle smiles and slower steps deemed a burden. It's not just whispers now, it's policy. Governments from the US to Sweden pass laws allowing forced sterilizations. Imagine a young woman with Down syndrome, maybe 20, her eyes bright with trust, taken to a hospital under the guise of care. Without her consent, without even her understanding, her chance at motherhood is stolen. The paperwork calls it protection for society, but it's a theft of her humanity, as cold as the steel table she lies on. This isn't fringe thinking. It's mainstream, backed by universities, doctors, even charities. You can almost hear the scratch of pens signing orders, the clink of medical tools. In some places like Canada and the UK, thousands with intellectual disabilities face this fate, their futures erased to fit a twisted ideal. Families are told it's for the best, their hearts breaking as they're pressured to comply. The world obsessed with efficiency and progress turns away, pretending these lives don't matter. It's a betrayal wrapped in science where difference becomes a crime. Yet even in this darkness, there's resistance. Picture a nurse, her hands trembling, slipping an extra blanket to a patient defying the system's coldness. or a parent refusing to sign the papers, their love fiercer than fear. As you drift towards sleep, hold on to these acts of defiance, small as they seem, are sparks in the night. They whisper of a fight to come, a time when these wrongs will be named and challenged. For now rest knowing this story's not done, it's turning toward light. Now let's tread carefully into one of history's darkest corners, where the air feels heavy with betrayal and loss. It's the 1930s and 40s, and Nazi